Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Second City podcast. My name's Daniel Sketchley. Unfortunately, the lesser spotted Callum Byrne is away on his travels again this week, so it's just me again for this quick episode. And first of all, apologies for basically the podcast disappearing for the last month or 6 weeks, whatever it's been. It's just been a really busy time. I know Callum's been travelling with work. I've been really busy with work. I'm sure everyone understands. It's just a bit of a busy time of year, especially coming into obviously Christmas isn't too far away now and so on and all that stuff. So apologies. The normal format will be back very shortly, hopefully in the next week or two. But I just thought I'd take this opportunity to just have a bit of a quick catch up on Blues. I know so much has happened. Obviously, Villa have been playing in Europe and they've had so much going on. Obviously, they're on a good run at the minute. Loads has happened at Blues, which I'm going to touch on today. Obviously, we've kind of hit a bit of a good vein of form lately. Wolves sacked their manager. Coventry finally lost a game. West Brom have had a really topsy-turvy run lately. So there has been loads to catch up on, and we will get into that in the next in the next couple of weeks when we get a chance to get back to the normal format. So I do apologise for all that. But in the meantime, I thought this was just a bit of a good opportunity whilst I've got a bit of time to just have a real quick catch up on Blues. Obviously, I'm a Blues fan. So this episode's just a Blues episode, basically, just a solo episode from me. Um, and yeah, a bit of a rough around the edges, just giving my thoughts about on how things have been going at Blues as we come into this, which is the third international break. So fans of the other clubs, apologies, but we will cover all that very soon. So this is just an episode for the Blues fans, really. So let's have a bit of a catch up on how it's all going. On the whole, as we come into this international break, I think Blues are now in we're in a better place than where we left off. I can't even remember what the last game was before we did our last episode. I know it might have been before the Wrexham game, actually. I know we hadn't covered the whole game. I know that onwards has been we haven't covered any of them Hull at home onwards. I don't think we did an episode at all in this last set of fixtures since the last international break. In fact, yeah, I'm sure we didn't. But obviously we lost the Hull game 3-2, and if you cast your minds back to that, I know it was a good few weeks ago now. But I think I said after that game, just like to people, Blues fans I know and so on, I think it was safe to say that after the defeat at home to Hull, it had officially been, for me, a pretty bad start. I think it's fair to say. At one point in that game, after the inevitable sending off of Jack Robinson for mouthing off to the referee, we were actually playing a back four of Damari Gray at right back, Tomoki Iwata at right centre back, Christoph Clara at left centre back, and Lewis Kumas at left back, which to me was absolute madness and kind of summed up just how, like, not to dig on him too much, but I really felt like Davies did not know his best team, and I felt like even with the sending off, I felt like we still could and probably should have got something out of that game. And this kind of gung-ho tactics kind of cost us. Like that back four was just wild. There was just no defenders on the pitch. We sent James Beadle in goal up for a corner, for a corner for a chance to draw level. We sent him up on like the 90th minute when they just said there was going to be 7 minutes of stoppage time. To say it was gung-ho is a bit of an understatement, really. But weirdly, I actually feel that the Jack Robinson red card really was a blessing in disguise. And I know I'm not alone in thinking that it was a completely deserved red for needlessly mouthing off at the referee. And so for the Preston game 4 days later, it meant that Chris Davies had to put Phil Neumann back in alongside Christoph Clara at left back, at centre back, after the kind of poor form of Erin Cashin and then obviously Jack Robinson being sent off again. One last word on Jack Robinson. To play 4 games at Blues since he came in the summer, to play 4 games, be sent off twice and score an own goal, that is like all-time worst Blues players level, surely. I know he probably will get a chance at Blues again. He's probably not actually in terms of ability one of the worst defenders we've had. In fact, I know he isn't. But that is he probably to lose his place in the team after that so quickly that is really something. That's an all-timer level, honestly, like all-time worst defenders level. Sadly, I hope for his sake he's able to kind of resurrect his career somewhat. But he's had an awful start to his time at Blues, I should say. But the reason I think it was such a blessing in disguise was because obviously Phil Neumann, as I say, came back into the team against Preston. And that reinstatement has completely changed us. Obviously, he scored the winner away at Preston just a few days later. We won 1-0. And obviously, then that was followed up with the 1-0 away defeat at Bristol City, which obviously was a bit disappointing. But the two performances that followed from the whole team, I mean, wow, where to start? Obviously, we played Portsmouth at home on the 1st of November and we won 4-0 and absolutely demolished them. And yes, Pompey were dreadful, but Blues were absolutely exceptional. Let's not forget that. And it truly looked like for the first time this season that Davies had found his best team. Neumann at right centre back has meant that Tomoki Iwata at right back has been a bit of a masterstroke by Davies, even if it was a slightly accidental one. and something he kind of stumbled across. Nonetheless, it's really worked. Iwata's energy and ability to get up the pitch into midfield, whilst being covered then at right back, thanks to Neumann's pace and ability to get across, I do think has been essential to our improved performances. And then the return from injury of Marvin Duksch has been an absolute revelation as well. His link-up play and his intelligence has brought the best out of the rest of the team, and especially Jay Stansfield, who, whilst I know he missed a penalty at 0-0 against Pompey and then missed the follow-up, which was a bad miss as well, he absolutely worked his backside off in this game. And even though he didn't score, I thought he put in a good performance, honestly. I thought people were being a little bit harsh on his performance in some sort of his match report on the BBC. I thought was a little bit harsh, I must say. But then, of course, scoring 3 goals directly from set pieces as well was something I never thought I'd see. We've been dreadful from set pieces this season. Obviously the third one from Clara in particular from the free kick I thought was a wonderful header, and actually the first one from Peck as well was brilliant as well. So hats off to Davis and the coaching staff for basically finding a different way to win and coaching us into moving the ball up the pitch quicker and not just having possession for possession's sake, as was clearly the case against Bristol City and was the case in a number of games already this season. I know I've been banging on about it a lot in this episode already, but every time I see Norman play, I genuinely find it insane or I find it astonishing that Robinson or Cashin could be picked ahead of him on merit. I think he's absolutely instrumental to the way we play. And the idea that I know Davis had said that he wanted a left footer at left centre back in order to sort of build attacks better and progress up the pitch better. He felt it was a tactical change that was necessary. It's just not been the case at all since Neumann came back. There was like an idea that he was the issue there, and we had to take him out and put a left-sided centre back in, a left-footed centre back in. Sorry, I should say. But Neumann has been a revelation, and I actually think he steps out of defence with the ball really well. I think he's a really competent passer of the ball for a Championship defender. So we've created an absolute ton of chances across the Portsmouth and Millwall games. So I think finally we've found a back four which is actually really effective, and it's actually going to be interesting when Samuel can't get back into the team at right back ahead of Iwata, and when Laird comes back, what happens there as well? Because I think that back four now is looking really effective. Obviously, we had the Middlesbrough game, which we'll get onto, but I've been very impressed on the whole, and it's finally starting to settle down a little bit. So to beat Portsmouth 4-0 on the Saturday was one thing, but to then do it 3 days later against a very good Millwall side was honestly something else. This was honestly about as complete a performance as I can remember from a Blues side that I've seen in person. I don't even remember us playing this well last season, and obviously we had, nothing but good results for the most part last year. 7 different goal scorers amongst 8 goals across 2 games. It was an absolute joy to watch, and I know Millwall have been ravaged by injuries lately, but they were fourth in the league for a reason, and so to completely outclass them like that was an absolute joy to behold. The second goal, finished off by Demarai Gray, was a delightful team goal, and obviously Cochrane's volley for the third goal was struck absolutely beautifully. And on a side note, I actually think he's really come into his own the last couple of weeks as a Championship left back as well. I'm sure having the reassurance of Clara next to him at left centre back has at least partially helped him out. But Cochrane deserves a lot of credit for that. Although I'm not having, I can see why people are comparing it to Iwata's goal against Newcastle last season. Obviously, they're both wonderful strikes, but come on, Iwata's goal is levels better. Come on, Iwata's goal is like an all-timer. That is an incredible goal. I think we've really found as well how to get the best out of Paik in midfield. Obviously, him and Tommy Doyle were absolutely formidable in midfield across these 2 home games, and it's a shame that Paik obviously got injured basically straight away in the Middlesbrough game with what looked like a dislocated shoulder. But Paik's 2 goals across the 2 home games were beautifully converted, I must say. The header against Portsmouth was wonderful to open the scoring, and then a lovely strike against Millwall as well. There were no less than he deserved. And then Patrick Roberts on the wing looks a true threat. He's definitely more of an old school winger than most these days. He kind of hugs the touchline a bit more, allowing Iwata to underlap and provide an option. It's really effective. And as I say, Asai Samuel can't get a game, can't get a start anyway. And when Laird comes back, what happens there? I don't know. I don't think you can drop Iwata at the minute. Of course, the defeat to Middlesbrough on Saturday was a bit disappointing, a bit of a disappointing way to end this set of fixtures. But I must say, I thought we still played well, and I thought we were probably a bit unlucky not to get a point. I think, if anything, the Rob Edwards departure at the last minute, obviously, it looks like he's going to Wolves, and his departure at the last minute as Middlesbrough manager, I thought it would probably destabilise them, and so I was pretty confident going into the Borough game. But if anything, it actually seemed to galvanise them, and they really kind of came together, and obviously they played pretty well as well. So whilst I think a draw would have been fair, it's not, it's not the end of the world. We still played pretty well. And I know the away form is a bit of a concern at this point, but we have had difficult fixtures so far this season on the road. I mean, we've already played we've played Leicester, Stoke, Coventry, Borough. We've played all of them away. They are hard fixtures. I know if we are looking to be right up there this season, you do have to start picking up points in these games. But let's look at it this way: we have got these games out of the way, and if our away form can start to get closer to our home form, which has been excellent this season, then we could really be onto something still. So it's safe to say I am feeling pretty optimistic about our chances again this year because, in those Portsmouth and Millwall games, we truly did start to look like the team a lot of people were hyping us up to be this season. And I don't think that's the last we'll see of that this season, all being well. One last thing to touch on, obviously, is the whole Kyogo conundrum. He's still not scored in the league, which is obviously is a huge shame. He's not starting games at the minute yet either, with the Dutch and Stansfield combination working well. However, I must say that, and I know I'm not the only person to think this, with his intelligence and his movement, I do still believe it's going to work out for him at Blues. He's a super exciting player to watch. He really runs at defenders, very technically skilled, and he's been doing everything right except finishing his chances. And you could feel the whole stadium was basically ready to erupt when he went one-on-one against Portsmouth to potentially make it 5-0. And obviously the keeper saved it, unfortunately, which seems to be happening every time Kyogo plays. I'm glad the fans still got behind him and chanted his name at full time as the team walked around the pitch. That was nice to see. And I must say, weirdly, despite how well Stansfield's playing, the thought eventually of seeing a Dutch Kyogo partnership up front is incredibly exciting. They're both such intelligent players, and I would love to see them two play together. Obviously, at the minute, you can't drop Stansfield because it's working so well. But at some point, I would love to see that because I think they're both Dutch and Kyogo. I think are both top quality players. I actually think it would have been obviously Dutch has been injured. I actually think then was a perfect chance to give Kyogo a good run of fixtures in the team, starting games, and hopefully could get that goal. Didn't happen. Davies didn't do that. I can understand why because he was missing chances, but I think that was for me that was a perfect opportunity to give him 4 or 5 consecutive starts and play Stansfield as the 10, play Kyogo as the 9. But wasn't to be. But I do think it will happen for him eventually, and I am very excited about that. And yeah, I know a lot of people have said this as well. Kyogo, he'll probably be one where he'll get a goal and then they'll just fall like dominoes after that. He seems like that kind of player. So we've got to wait a little bit longer, but I am confident it will happen eventually. And I've been saying that for weeks, but I am still confident. Especially if the team keeps playing well and keeps creating chances. Obviously, at Celtic, everyone says he missed big chances at Celtic, and he did. But he has that ability to just go again. And obviously, at Celtic, they would create so many chances for him. And I think Blues, the way we're playing, we will do the same. And I think it will work out for him at Blues. So that's just a quick catch up on Blues. And as I say, I'm feeling pretty good about it all at the moment. And then, obviously, after this international break, it's Norwich at home for the official 150th anniversary fixture and the return of the shed at half time. So that's exciting. Of course, Norwich actually did just sack Liam Manning over the last couple of days. So hopefully they don't get a bit of a new manager bounce, and hopefully we can rack up another good result at home. I know we lost the whole game at home, but otherwise that's the only home game we've lost in the league since April 2024. So that is something to absolutely be proud of and keep building on. And then it's a trip to the Baggies that midweek, so that's a really big game, one of our biggest games of the season. I know they beat Oxford at the weekend, but otherwise they've been on a pretty poor run themselves. So if we can get 4 points out of them 2 games, wonderful. I think a win against Norwich, and then we've got a draw at the Baggies at least. That would be fantastic. So that's basically it for now on the Blues front. As I say, the normal format will return soon to the podcast. But in the meantime, thank you so much for joining me today, and keep right on. And I'll see you all soon. Take care.